Children, in today's video, we are going to talk about types of commercial activities, out of which we would be covering employment. Next, we would be covering the difference between business, profession, and employment. Thirdly, we would be covering the interrelationship between business, profession, and employment as to how they are complementary to each other. Now, starting off with employment. Employment refers to working for others in exchange for remuneration. Now, what is this remuneration? Remuneration refers to the salary, the wages, the return which an employee gets after working for others. Now, what is an employee? As to who is an employee and who is an employer? Employee is the person who works for other people for the purpose of getting remunerated, for the purpose of getting salary or wage. Employer is any person or any organization who hires people to work under them. For an employment, there needs to be an agreement between the two parties, that is the employer and the employee. This agreement is called as a contract of service. This contract of service has to be either oral or written agreement. This agreement is required so that the employer and the employee, they are at the same page. That is, they have a consent over the rules and the guidelines given to the employee to work under the employer. The employer guides the employee and controls his working. Children, can a professional be an employee? The answer to this question is yes, a professional can be an employee. Let's take an example. Say a doctor is working in a government hospital. In that case, the doctor is an employee to the government hospital. He is working as a doctor on the payrolls, on the salary of the government hospital. A doctor working in Fortis Hospital, he is an employee of the Fortis Hospital. So children, any professional or any person can work as an employee in both government organizations and private organizations. When we talk about professionals working as employees, in that case, they do not charge a professional fee. They work for a fixed salary, which is given to them either in case of they are working under a government organization, then in that case, the salary is given by the government organization. If the doctor or say an engineer or an advocate is working for a private organization, the salary, the remunerations are paid by the private organization. For example, a lawyer is working in a bank as a legal officer. He is taking up the cases, the loans cases, disbursement cases of the bank. In that case, the lawyer or the advocate is on the payrolls of the bank. So he is an employee. Whereas in case the lawyer or an advocate is practicing on his own, he is taking up the cases as a professional. In that case, he is a professional. So children, I made you clear that an employer can hire professionals also. In that case, the professionals will be termed as employees. Now, moving to our next topic for today, that is difference between business, profession and employment. The first point is mode of employment. Mode of employment. In case of business, a business enterprise is established when a businessman takes a decision to carry on some business activity. Whereas in case of profession, the membership or enrollment of a recognized professional association is essential. In order to take up employment, a person has to enter into a contract of service. As we talked about, the contract of service has to be between employer and employee. Next point, nature of work. A business exists, works to provide goods and services to satisfy human wants, whereas a profession provides personalized services or specialized nature to his clients. An employee works for performing the work given to him by the employer under the contract of service. Next point is qualification. No formal qualification is required to carry out a business. In case of profession, as we discussed, specialized knowledge and training are essential to carry out a profession. Minimum qualification is prescribed for every profession. Say, for being into the law profession, LLB is the minimum qualification. In case of employment, the required qualification depends on the nature of job. Say, for example, you are working as a typist. The qualification required for you is you need to have skills of typing. That is, you need to have speed of typing. You are working as a computer operator. You need to have the knowledge of computers. That is, you need to know how to work on Excel sheets, Word, PowerPoint, etc. Next point is main objective. In business, the basic motive, the main objective is to earn profit. A profession is expected to work for the service motive. That is, a professional needs to follow the code of conduct given by the professional association. In case of employment, an employee is to earn a salary and receive other benefits attached to his employment. Investment. In case of business, large amount of capital, that is money, is required to start off the business. In case of profession, also large amount of money is required to open his or her office for providing the services to the clients. Whereas in case of employment, no such money is required to start off the employment. Risk. In case of business, there is large amount of risk involved. Whereas in case of profession and employment, there is negligible or no risk involved. Reward. In case of profession, the reward is professional fee, whereas in case of business, this reward is in the form of profits. In case of employment, the reward is the salary or the wages the employee gets from his employer for working under him. Next point is transfer of interest. In case of business, the interest, the ownership can be transferred to the other person. For example, your father is a businessman. He can transfer the business in near future in your name. Whereas it is not possible in the case of profession and employment. Public advertisement. In case of business, advertisement is required. A businessman needs to give advertisement for his products and services in the newspaper. In case of profession and employment, there is no such requirement to give the advertisement. Now coming to the last topic for today, that is interrelationship between business, profession and employment. All the three, business, profession and employment, they are closely interrelated. They are complementary to each other. Let us take a small example. Supposingly, you are running a factory. The factory involves large amount of people to work under it. That is, the running of the business is not possible without the skilled and the unskilled people. When we talk about the skilled people, say for example, the income tax returns of the business need to be filed. For this, a businessman requires the services of a CA, a chartered accountant. Say, a businessman requires the services of engineers to work in his factory. So this is again a professional. Services are required. The services of a professional required in a business is a proof that a business requires professionals to work under it. In the modern world, to carry out the business activities effectively and efficiently, there is a requirement for the skilled as well as unskilled people to work in the business to make it a real success. Now, the next point is manpower. In case of business, lot of manpower is required to work in a factory. Say, in a factory, there are 100 people employed as worker. These are all manpower. Without their working in the organization, in the factory, the work is not possible. The production is not possible. So, we can say that business, profession and employment, they are closely interrelated. None of them can work independently without the support of the other. So we can say that they are interrelated and complementary economic activities to each other. Children, in today's video we discussed about employment, its meaning. Then we discussed the difference between business, profession and employment. We also discussed how business, profession and employment are interrelated and complementary to each other. There would be a worksheet followed by this video. You need to perform it in your notebooks. Thank you. Have a great day.